Hey, this is Jeff, and you asked for it, so here it is. We're going to find out how quickly you can get all skills to 100 in Fallout New Vegas. And I mean natural 100s. Temporary buffs from outfits, chems, or whatever don't count. I just started a new game and listened to Doc Mitchell's preamble, so our current objective is to use the Vigor Tester over there to set up our special stats. I did a similar series for Fallout 3 a while back, starting from a save game at the vault exit with my namesake Lone Wanderer Jeff character. I didn't have a save game in Doc Mitchell's house with Courier Jeff, so I thought I'd do something a little different. This is Max, forgive the pun. It took me 3 attempts in Fallout 3, but I managed to get all skills to 100 by level 7. The good news is the situation is a lot less complicated in New Vegas for a number of reasons I'll explain shortly, so hopefully I won't have to revise my strategy and start over twice like I did in Fallout 3. The bad news is we won't be doing it anywhere close to level 7. In fact, you can't even get all skills in New Vegas to 100 without at least some of the DLC installed. Without the DLC, you're missing out on more than 40 skill books, and the skilled trait and a little back-of-the-envelope math says that when you reach the vanilla game's level cap of 30, the best you could do would be all skills in the low 80s, or 10 skills at 100, and 70-odd points scattered among 3 dump stats. I've seen some sources claim it can't be done even with the DLC, but that's simply not true. The Fallout Wiki says it can be done in the upper 40s if you have the DLC and take advantage of an exploit in the skilled trait, but I'm pretty sure I can do better than that. First things first, let's set up our special attributes. One thing to note, we don't want any attribute to be 10 before we get the implant for it, otherwise we're leaving skill points on the table. Every point in a special attribute adds 2 points to the skills associated with that attribute. Strength only has 1 associated skill, making every point of strength worth only 2 skill points, so it's our dump stat. Which is unfortunate because it means pathetic carry capacity and an extremely limited number of guns we can aim effectively, but so be it. Perception has 3 associated skills, so every point of perception is worth 6 skill points. We obviously want that to be 10 by the time we're done, so I'll set it to 9 right now and boost it with an implant later. And because one of the associated skills is energy weapons, this has the happy side effect of compensating somewhat for my rock bottom strength. The only ballistic weapons I can use effectively are the BB gun, which is basically a joke weapon, and the Silence 22 pistol, which can be tactically useful for stealth kills, but sucks in straight-up combat. Whereas there are numerous viable energy weapons with really low strength requirements. Endurance is one of 3 attributes with 2 associated skills, so every point in any one of those attributes is worth 4 skill points. Theoretically, it doesn't matter how you juggle those 3, but each point of endurance also gives you 1 implant slot, so we need that to be at least 7 by the time we're done so we can get all the special implants. Actually 8, because the endurance implant gives you an extra point of endurance, but it doesn't give you another implant slot, so you need a natural 7, and then adding the implant will make it 8. For right now, I'll set it to 3 and make up the difference later by investing heavily in the intense training perk, which does add an extra implant slot every time you use it to increase your endurance. Charisma is another attribute associated with 2 skills. A lot of people treat this like a dump stat in New Vegas because speech challenges don't work like they did in Fallout 3. I made a remark about that in one of the Fallout 3 videos, and someone left a comment pointing out that charisma is actually more valuable in New Vegas than a lot of people give it credit for, because the higher it is, the more effective it makes your companions. And that's a great point that may come into play later, but my most pressing need right now is to have as much barter skill as we can, and that's associated with charisma, so I'll set it to 9. Intelligence is associated with 3 skills, so it's worth 6 skill points a pop, but more importantly, it determines how many skill points we get when we level up. We'll set it at 9 for now, which makes it imperative that we get the intelligence implant before we hit level 2. And implants are expensive, which is why I need my barter skill to be as high as possible. Agility is the last attribute associated with 2 skills, so you could really trade this off in any combination with endurance and charisma as long as you end up with enough endurance to get all the implants. Because I put so many points into charisma, I'm going to have to set agility to 1 for now and boost it with an implant and intense training later. My gun skill is going to suck and I'll have the minimum possible action points, but since I won't be using ballistic weapons and I rarely use VATS, that's not as bad as it sounds. Unfortunately, it also means I'll be about as stealthy as a bull in a china shop, but that's a trade-off I'm just going to have to live with. Finally, unlike the other attributes, luck isn't associated with any specific skills, but it's actually better. Every 2 points of luck adds 1 point to every skill rounded up. So we want that to be 9 before we're done. 8's good enough to break the bank at any casino even before we get the luck implant, and like I said, we'll be needing a lot of money.
Well, we know your vitals are good, but that don't mean them bullets didn't leave you nuttered and a bighorn are dropping. What do you say you take a seat in my couch and we go through a couple of questions? See if your dogs are still barking.
One more thing to note about special stats, the almost perfect perk doesn't exist in New Vegas, so unlike Fallout 3, you can never have a truly perfect character with all skills 100 and all special attributes 10, but we will get all skills to 100, and between implants and intense training, our special might end up closer to perfect than you expect.
All right. I'm gonna say a word. I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. Dog.
Our answers to Doc Mitchell's psych exam don't matter because we'll reset our tag skills the way we want at the end of it, so I'll see you on the other side. For our tag skills, we're obviously taking barter, and we'll need high lockpick skill sooner rather than later, and ditto for hacking, so we'll also tag science.
Before I turn you loose, I need one more thing from you. I got a form for you to fill out so I can get a sense of your medical history. Just a formality. Ain't like I expect to find you got a family history of getting shot in the head.
I could do a whole video on the cost-benefit analysis of the various optional traits you can take, but for this run, we're obviously taking Skilled, which is added by the Old World Blues DLC. Plus 5 to all skills is huge, and the 10% XP penalty is actually an advantage for this challenge. And we'll also take Small Frame to boost Agility by 1, which is worth another 4 skill points. The increased chance of getting crippled limbs means we might burn through stim packs and doctor's bags a little faster than usual, but it's a necessary evil to maximize our skills.
All right, I guess that about does it. Come with me, I'll see you out. Anyway, you ever get hurt out there, you come right back. I'll fix you up. But try not to get killed anymore.
And now it asks if we want to enable hardcore mode, which is separate and distinct from the game difficulty setting. And by the way, I usually play New Vegas on very hard, but the difficulty setting doesn't make any difference as far as skills go. It'd just mean I have to be more careful and focused in combat, and I'd probably waste time dying and reloading, and I don't want this to take forever, so I have it set to very easy this time. Anyway, hardcore mode adds survival mechanics like managing thirst, hunger, and fatigue. I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it definitely makes the effects of trudging through the desert all day feel more realistic, and it adds another layer of strategy and planning to mitigate those threats. But on the other hand, to me it kind of undermines the epic sci-fi ambiance when you have to manage a bunch of mundane chores you already have to deal with in real life. Geez, the fridge is almost empty. Guess I better go to the store and buy groceries. If you've seen any of my Courier Jeff videos, they're in hardcore mode because I enabled it when I created him, and I'd feel like a wuss if I disabled it now. But for a brand new character in a playthrough that doesn't need any distractions, that's a big nope. And after expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the kindly old man who saved my life, I'm gonna rob him blind and pawn everything at Chet's. And now we get all the messages about the DLC being activated. I'm using all 4 story DLCs for reasons we already discussed, and also Gunrunner's Arsenal. It adds a bunch of weapons, ammo types, and weapon upgrades that you need to discover in the Wasteland or buy from merchants, usually at insanely expensive prices, so it's pretty well balanced in terms of gameplay. I'm not using the Courier Stash DLC, even though it's included in the New Vegas Ultimate Edition. It was originally a pre-order bonus that just adds a bunch of gear to your inventory at the start of the game, and that feels like a primitive pay-to-win system to me. If you're playing along at home and that doesn't bother you, feel free to use it, and it'll make it easier to afford the intelligence implant when we get there. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm already over-encumbered by what I took from Doc Mitchell, so I'll sell this stuff to Chet before I rob his neighbors. And I'll probably do most of that off-screen unless I run into anything relevant or unexpected. Here in Trudy's house, we have our first skill book. I'll take it, but I'm not going to read it until I take the comprehension perk, which increases the benefit from reading. And I just realized if I end up carrying around 100 pounds of books with a carry capacity of 160, it's going to make looting a bit of a chore. Speaking of which, Chet won't buy items you steal in Goodsprings if they're actually marked as stealing. Like, if the prompt is red when you look at them. The stuff I stole from Doc Mitchell technically wasn't stealing because it's not flagged as being owned by anyone and the prompt is green when you take it. I'm taking all this stuff anyway because of the way stolen property works in New Vegas. I've never seen this explained anywhere, but merchants only refuse to buy stolen property if it was stolen from someone who belongs to the same faction as them. I guess the rationale is they recognize their friends' stuff, but not a stranger's. So like, Chet's thinking, hey, isn't that Trudy's coffee pot? But if I take it to Mick and Ralph's in Freeside, they have no way of knowing that I stole it from somebody halfway across the map. Also, stealing doesn't affect your reputation with a faction unless you get caught, which broadly makes sense, although I think it's kind of funny that everybody in Goodsprings is like, Doc Mitchell patched up that stranger who was shot in the head, and then an hour after he woke up, everybody's silverware went missing. Probably a coincidence. I guess they don't judge people based on circumstantial evidence. Good for them. Stealing from anyone does lower your karma, but the effects of karma, good or bad, are pretty negligible in New Vegas compared to Fallout 3 because New Vegas relies much more heavily on the faction reputation system. The only meaningful downside to evil karma is if you have Cass as a companion, she'll leave you if you stay evil too long. Otherwise, it's all cosmetic, like a slight variation in the endgame slideshow or the title you get at each level. You know, on the save screen, you might be called a peacekeeper if you have good karma, a drifter if you're neutral, or an outlaw if you're evil. Anyway, if cumbrance becomes a problem and I don't have a real player home yet, there are still plenty of locations with containers that don't respawn where I can stash some books until I get the comprehension perk, like here in Victor's shack. I don't think the mantis nymphs in the schoolhouse give you many XP, and there's some pretty good loot in there, including a stealth boy I'm not going to sell. That'll be my get-out-of-jail-free card if I get into trouble because I'm not nearly as well optimized for combat as I might otherwise be. Ooh, Programmer's Digest. Take that. Man, I forgot the laser pistol doesn't have iron sights. I think the GRA variant does, so I'll have to figure out how to get one of those at some point. I guess this is getting the job done. Well, against one of the weakest enemies in the game, anyway. With 2 or 3 hits. Anyway, Programmer's Digest isn't one of the books we need. Everybody probably knows this, but where Fallout 3 only had books that permanently increase a skill, New Vegas has those, and it added magazines, which buff a skill by a lot more, but only temporarily. Programmer's Digest is one of those. It boosts your science by 10 for 2 minutes, which is very handy if there's a terminal that you can't quite hack, and just like the books, there's one of each type of magazine for each of the 13 skills. You can open the safe with lockpick or science, and I have enough of both to do it either way. I guess I'll hack the terminal to save wear and tear on my precious few lockpicks. Tutorial message. Nice! Ooh, that was a lot of XP for an easy terminal. Better sell this stuff and head for the clinic because I'm going to get more XP for discovering a few map markers along the way. And there's the stealth boy. Okay, we're done in Goodsprings, so let's talk about cheats versus exploits. To me, cheats are something outside the game that give you an advantage in the game. Console commands, editing your save file, cheat mods, and so on. I obviously won't be using any cheats for this challenge because otherwise I could just use console commands to set all my stats to max and be done. On the other hand, most bugs, glitches, and bad design choices hurt you, so when one actually works in your favor, I think taking advantage of it is fair. I bring it up now because there's a glitch with the skilled trait in New Vegas. When you get the message that you're leaving the tutorial area, you have the option to rebuild your character. We'll take that option. leave our appearance the way it is, and set our special attributes exactly the same way we did with the vigor tester. We'll want them to be 1, 9, 3, 9, 9, 1, 8. Notice that the extra agility point from the small frame trait is gone because we're supposed to be starting from scratch. But when we take a look at the screen to pick tag skills, you can see they're all 5 points higher than they were when we picked tag skills on Doc Mitchell's couch, because the points added by the skilled perk weren't removed when our other stats were reset. So now when we pick traits, we'll pick small frame and skilled again and see what happens. Finished. Travel onward. Oh, cool. I didn't realize it also resets your experience to 0, so I didn't need to worry about the XP from hacking that terminal after all. Anyway, we'll take a look at our stats. And you can see our special attributes are all as they should be, including the +1 agility from small frame. But on the skills tab, you can see we've now received 10 points in every skill from the skilled trait instead of just 5. Probably not how the designers intended it to work. And if you don't think that's fair, then whatever level we are when we get to straight hundreds, just add 4 and call that the real number. 4 because we'll be getting 17 skill points per level by then, so it'd take 4 more levels to make up the 65 free points we just got from the exploit. Either way, we'll know what level you can get straight 100s with and without the exploit. And now we're going to hightail it to the clinic to get the intelligence implant. I showed this route to Freeside in one of the first videos I ever made for the channel. I can't say for sure if I was the first person to discover it, but I've never seen any other YouTuber or speedrunner do it this way, which is kind of surprising because I think this is the safest way by far to get there at first level. There are sometimes a few coyotes in this area, and while they appear red on your compass, they don't turn hostile unless you approach them, so if you see any, just steer around them and they pose no threat. What was that? Oh, a first aid kit. Won't say no to that. Likewise, because we don't have a bad reputation with the powder gangers, the guys down there won't bother us as long as we give them a bit of space. Well, we don't have any reputation with any faction yet, but that won't last forever. Dead Brahmin over here. Won't say no to that either. There are some powder gangers farther down the road that I think are always hostile, but like I say, the ones here on the flat between the NCR Correctional Facility and Hidden Valley won't attack unless you provoke them. I think some of their little shacks out here are protected with mines, so you still don't want to get too close. So, since we have some time, let's talk about why skill progression is so much slower in New Vegas than Fallout 3. For one thing, the formula for how many skill points you gain per level is different. If you have max intelligence and the educated perk, you gain 23 skill points per level in Fallout 3. With max intelligence and the educated perk in New Vegas, you only get 17 points per level. But some of the factors that make skill progression slower in New Vegas also make this challenge a lot less complicated. Fallout 3 has numerous perks that give you bonus skill points, and most of them have multiple ranks. In New Vegas, there's only one, and it only has one rank, the tag perk, which lets you designate one additional skill as a tag skill, which really just means it adds 15 points to that skill. And we will be taking that when it becomes available at level 16. Fallout 3 has multiple quests that reward you with bonus skill points, but in New Vegas there aren't any. Fallout 3 also has skill bobbleheads, some of which can only be accessed during certain quests or are otherwise tricky to get. New Vegas doesn't have any bobbleheads. And this is the only really tricky part of this route. The rock right here doesn't look like it should be climbable, but it totally is. Sometimes, like that, you can wiggle your way up without even using the jump key. When we get a little farther along this ledge, you can see where we are. Right above the entrance to the Brotherhood of Steel bunker. Okay, there's one more slightly tricky part up here. You have to scoot around this rock, but there's another ledge below it, so you won't have to go back and do the first one over even if you fall. Like that. There's a place right around the corner where we can get back up. Right here. Anyway, in Fallout 3, there are theoretically 25 copies of each skill book, even though, like the bobbleheads, a lot of them can only be reached if certain conditions are met, and you can never collect them all because some of the conditions are mutually exclusive. And there you can see we're now above Scorpion Gulch between Hidden Valley and Helios 1. New Vegas only has 4 copies of each book, plus a few in the DLC. And finally, the factor that really complicated things in Fallout 3 was experience. That's actually why I had to replan and start over twice. I kept leveling up faster than I could collect all the skill books, so I wound up having to avoid XP like the plague. I calculated the XP to skill point ratio of everything I did. If there was one book in a location you can only access after completing a quest that gives you 300 XP, I had to let it go. Even simple stuff like picking locks was on a case-by-case basis, and I couldn't afford to kill anything, so I had to rely on dog meat and Caravan to protect me in dangerous areas. Is this the way down? No, it's a little bit farther. That won't be as much of a problem in New Vegas because skill progression is so much slower and there aren't nearly as many books. I'm avoiding XP right now because I need to get the intelligence implant before I hit level 2, and I'm still going to try not to earn excessive XP until we collect all the books just in case. This is the way down. I've never seen the scorpions randomly wander up the ramp to the grave. They can and will come up to attack you if you linger in that area, but if you keep moving, this is virtually no risk. Around the corner, there's a hill they can't really climb, so we'll be out of reach before they even know we're here. They have a limited pursuit radius, so they rarely even come out of the canyon, and when you get close to Helios 1, you're home free. I didn't get on top of the ledge, but that's probably fine. We'll just stay as high as we can. I do hear something behind me, though. No scorpions. Shit, it's Malcolm Holmes! Run away! Oh! If you've never met Malcolm Holmes, he's not hostile, he's not even really dangerous, except he'll force greet you in the most bizarre places, even if you're in combat. Chase you off a cliff. So it's kind of a running joke that YouTubers and people who play New Vegas a lot always try to dodge him or kill him. Anyway, I'm going to curse off screen for a few minutes and see you back at Helios 1. You have got to be kidding me. Either he's been tracking me since before the autosave at Chet's, or his spawn point is somewhere along my route. Well, kudos to him for making it through Scorpion Gulch alive, I guess. He desperately wants to tell me the legend of the Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle cap treasure. But I think he deserves to see the big city. Follow me, Malcolm! You can run over to 95 and take the highway north from here, but there's a billboard beside the road that some Viper gunslingers hide behind to ambush you. It's a lot safer to hug the fence around to the back of Helios 1 and cut between the dry lake bed and the Eldorado substation. And we just aggroed one of the ants, but they have a very limited pursuit radius, so they can't stray far from the lake bed, and we won't be getting that close. At least I don't think they can come over here. No ants, but Malcolm's still with us. Beyond this point, there's zero wildlife and no bad guys. The NCR troopers at the substation won't aggro unless you get right up in their face and ignore their warnings to leave. Well, if your NCR rep was so bad that they shoot on sight, they would, but again, we have no rep with any faction yet, so no worries there. Bottom line, if you want to get from Goodsprings to the Strip or the clinic at first level, this is the way to do it. The only time you're in an area where anything hostile can even theoretically reach you is the last few feet of Scorpion Gulch, but you're already past them by the time they notice and start tracking you. An absolute worst case, fighting a couple of low-level bark scorpions is a far cry from trying to sneak past Deathclaws or Cazadores or going the long way like the game wants you to. On the other side of this, we'll run into Route 95, north of the 188 rest stop. And there's literally nothing dangerous from there to Freeside, as long as you stay on the road and don't wander into the suburbs south of Camp McCarran. With the obvious caveat that sometimes weird stuff just happens in this game, so if something scary ends up way outside its wander radius, miles from its spawn point, you'll have that. All information provided is for entertainment only. No warranty is offered or implied. Jeff cannot be held responsible for gruesome player death. Now, the absolute safest way to Freeside is to hang a left at the Aerotech office park here and beeline for the gate, but I need a lot of money for the intelligence implant, so I'm going to make a detour to the sacked Caravan. The bodies always have energy weapons and combat armor that are really valuable. The implant costs 4,000 caps, but between what we loot here and what we already sold to Chet, it should be enough. And is this the way? No, this way. Just follow the pipes. And here we are. This is a clue in a quest we may or may not do later, but what's important right now is that some Van Graff thugs attacked a Crimson Caravan team, and between them there should be enough loot for me to afford the implant. Just look at that combat armor and plasma rifle. Of course, I'm over encumbered now.
Hello there. It's good to see a friendly face. I almost took you for
No
a raider out here.
freaking way.
Name's Malcolm. Malcolm Holmes. Don't suppose you'd care to trade. I'm missing a few essentials and... screw this. Lying just ain't in my nature. I'll tell it to you straight. I've been following you for a good bit now.
Yeah, I noticed. Go on.
It started off innocently enough. I was traveling, as I often do, and happened to observe you picking up one of those blue star caps. You didn't show any reaction to it, so I figured you didn't know what you'd gotten your hands on.
You know what? Tell me your story.
No problem. If you do end up trying to collect more stars, watch out for a man named Alan Marks. He's killed several people for their stars already.
You, sir, are one tenacious SOB. Now I need to drop my lowest value junk so I can loot the rest of these corpses. Yes! I can just hang on to Trudy's coffee pot. I feel kind of bad about stealing stuff and then just throwing it away, but at least leaving it near a sacked Caravan will divert suspicion from me. And now you see why I really named this character Max. See what I did there? It's a shame I'm not even close to meeting the strength requirement for a sawed-off shotgun, but what can you do? Now, the only catch is that the shops around here probably won't have enough caps on hand to cover what the combat armor's actually worth. I'm sure Mick and Ralph won't, and I doubt Dr. Usanagi will either. Blake and the Gunrunners robot should be in the ballpark, and if I have to sell them for slightly less than they're worth, I'll take the difference in energy cells. And if they don't have enough of that to make it an even trade, I'll buy anything they have with 0 weight and resell it later to offset at least some of the loss. And I might as well get the map marker for the clinic while I'm passing by.
If you're looking to buy or sell, you've come to the right man. The Crimson Caravan Company has the widest selection in the wasteland.
Show me what you have for sale.
Can do.
Ooh, nice. 1,500 caps. I think... Nah, doesn't quite cover the one in the better condition, but it's still better to sell him this one and sell the other one to the Gunrunners robot. Glad you're sitting down, Ralph, because I saved the prize of my collection for last. Feast your eyes on this coffee pot. Was, the reward for saving the life of a wealthy merchant in the hub. Yeah, that's the ticket. 36.57. We're getting there.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for stopping in.
And while I'm in Freeside, I have enough to pass the credit check with...
Hello there.
Hello. The, credit check at the gate to the strip, so I'm going to do that before I spend it all. But I'm going to go around to the north gate to avoid the Freeside thugs that spawn up the street. I don't want to accidentally get enough XP to hit level 2 when we're this close. These street vendors never have much money, but every little bit helps. almost 3,800. I know I could go to the Atomic Wrangler and gamble. With luck of 8, there's essentially no risk at blackjack as long as you pay attention to what you're doing. With luck of 10, you're guaranteed to win unless you're actively trying to lose. But I don't remember if winning gives you XP, and that is not worth the risk. And we'll tag the drop box here. With my strength, they might end up being really useful to ship loot around. There's no way to avoid this group of thugs, but I might be able to lead them into the Securitrons. Or the Kings might take care of it. Or even old Ben's getting involved.
Come on.
Oh, guy just stabbed him and ran away. That's right. Shoot him in the back. I don't think I have ever seen old Ben get in combat. Oh, here come the Kings to back him up. This should be over soon, then. Ben is not doing much with that revolver, though. Well, that's one way to avoid him force greeting you. All right, let's talk to the gatekeeper.
Submit to a credit check, or present your passport before proceeding to the gate. Trespassers will be shot.
Don't worry, they don't actually take the money. They just check to make sure you're not a deadbeat before they let you into the fancy part of town. Sure, I'll submit to the credit check.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Joke's on you, pal. Next time you see me, I'll be flat broke. James, man, I can't believe a casino owner has less caps on hand than a guy selling ant meat in the street.
Another satisfied customer.
Satisfied isn't exactly the word I'd use.
See ya.
Please have at least 150 caps.
Welcome to the New Vegas Medical Clinic. I'm a fully qualified physician and can fix whatever is wrong with you for a reasonable fee. If you've got the caps, I've also got several implants available to enhance your physical attributes.
Do you sell anything here?
I have reserved a small part of my supplies for sale. The profits go directly to the purchase of additional supplies to help the less fortunate.
Show me what you have for sale.
Very well.
Yes! She might even have enough to buy the shotgun. No, not quite, but I'm sure she can throw in a few things I need to make it even. I want to be more intelligent.
For 4,000 caps, I can install a logic coprocessor.
Let's do it.
Have a seat in the auto dock. This will take a few hours.
So, did you just put me in the auto dock and sleep through the operation? Although, if it was me, I'd probably be the same way. You want treatment from a real doctor, come in during office hours and don't get me out of bed, asshole. So, let's look at our stats. Yes, intelligence 10. Mission accomplished. And the implants show up as perks, so you don't forget which ones you already have. Well, sleep tight, Doc. All right, the setup phase is complete, and now we can really get the ball rolling. The first order of business will be collecting all the skill books in the base game, so I'm going to call it a day and think about the most efficient route to hit the relevant locations without jumping all over the map at random. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that the Fallout Wiki says you can get all skills to 100 with a level in the high 40s if you have the DLC and use the skilled trait exploit. If everything goes according to plan, and it won't, but I still think the margin we can beat that by will surprise you. I'm going to start trying to follow YouTube's advice on building viewer engagement, so feel free to put your best guess what level will be when we're done in the comments. And of course, hit the like button if you like it, and if you enjoy this kind of thing, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.